In a faraway slice of the megaverse, the inhabitants of Flova are preparing for a mission to a mysterious, primitive planet. What they find there will change the course of their history forever. And maybe yours, too. Put on some headphones and harness the power of your imagination with the illustrated podcast, Flovatar, a Dust Odyssey.
Do you want the good news or the bad news first?
Nostos, more than 40 years younger than his current version back in BC Greece, reluctantly posed this age-old question to Damus. The year was 4939, equal to about 1976 on Earth, and the official paperwork for Flova Labs had been signed a week prior, signifying Nostos and Damus as the founders. Years had passed since they had graduated top of their class from the Metaversity of Tangrapan. The pair, along with Reno Franklin, who was working on her own research, were toiling away in their glamorous inaugural company office, an annex of a pungent food manufacturing plant. They were all a bit overheated because of the high temperatures churned out by the solar-powered assembly lines, and because the recent updates to the soon-to-be-released air sieve were not going as planned.
I'd rather you tell me the solution to the bad news. You're not a news anchor.
A young Damus quipped back at Nostos.
You'd rather I just lie and pretend everything is on schedule?
Younger Nostos huffed.
What kind of project management would that be?
The truest kind. All right, what's the problem?
Well, the code for the air sieve isn't putting out exactly the results I was looking for.
Nostos began, rubbing his bloodshot eyes.
It's clearly some sort of bug. I keep tinkering with the commands, but the hardware seems to be malfunctioning. It doesn't make sense. It should only be filtering out pollution. However, it's picking up on something else.
You told me this would be working by this week.
Damus scowled at Nostos. Impatient, he peered at logo ideas for Flova Lab's first invention while double-fisting an early prototype of Sloosh and a portable cup of microwavable fizzle rods. He slurped up a tangled bunch of the cheap, soggy concoction called Flamen.
And the good news?
We think it's malfunctioning because of something Reno found in the air.
Damus glanced at the aforementioned scientist. He could barely see her fluffy hair and thick glasses behind a stack of humming biochemistry analyzers and bubbling test tubes.
Did you analyze it?
Reno popped up her head and rolled her eyes.
Of course I did. I tried. I thought I was potentially extracting something extra toxic out of the air, something we didn't realize was there.
She chewed on her inner lip.
All the analysis is coming back unreadable, though. When I fed the substance into the machine, it went into overdrive.
Damus set down his Flamen.
So it broke the machine. I told you it didn't need to be carbon neutral. No one cares about that.
No, it didn't break it.
Nostos retorted, grabbing the remnants of Damus's meal and finishing them for himself.
It powered up beyond levels we thought possible. There's something here more formidable than we thought. Something beyond our control.
Suddenly, Damus shook himself awake from his memory. He had fallen asleep while poring over Flova Lab's product logs in his office. Luckily, no one would notice. His current assistant was virtual, a hologram he could change the appearance of with the swipe of his hand. His closest confidant was a supercomputer. Reno was still nowhere to be found, and his right-hand Flovan wasn't technically a Flovan at all. It was time for Damus's dinner, and into his office rolled a hybrid droid and Flovan combination. He had the hair, the eyes, the general form of a Flovan, but his face and his hands were pure metal, and his boots contained remote-controlled wheels. The perpetually grinning steward set an elaborate meal down in front of Damus and stood at attention. Perd, or Derp as Damus had nicknamed him after surgery, was the ideal second in command. When a Flovan was injured in a near-fatal accident, which rarely happened nowadays thanks to assisted thought, they were transported to a medical center and evaluated. If they were able to be fixed with advanced curative technology, they were infused and rebuilt with synthetic materials and placed in the employ of Flova Labs. Their AT devices weren't just connected to their brain. They were part of it. Derp and his halfling staff members were ideal workers. They were organic enough to pass as Flovans and train the AT technology, and artificial enough to never tire or question authority. Big Data had spit out the idea. Damus had hesitated at first, but then acquiesced to the fact that these Flovans were living a renewed life as robot droids. Derp never let a smile leave his face. Damus chose to believe it wasn't just the programming. Big Data, on the other hand, did not have a smile on its metaphorical face. It would impatiently announce equations and assumptions every few minutes, as Damus tried to solve the puzzle of where the portolium crystal could have walked off to. Then it would apologize after he barked at it and lay dormant until it was obligated to blurt out more formulas. This had continued for the past 6 hours. Damus looked down at the glass bowl of food in front of him, filled with the finest cuisine that could be found on the planet. It was far more advanced than what humans had on Earth, judging by the pizza he'd watched some of them inhale from the live stream. His culinary staff even integrated some of the interplanetary spices that the Tagrab immigrants had brought in sacks they slung over their backs. It was the only worthwhile baggage they brought, Damus thought. Unfortunately, he wasn't in the mood for such a fancy dish, and he pushed it away. Its fumes were making him sick. He seemed to be getting constant headaches since the Earth mission started. He had even been taking his AT device out at night, as it seemed to soothe the pain. Big Data came out of sleep mode again.
Excuse me, sir. I've done another equation. If you want to increase the level of likelihood of finding the element by the end of this week, you should—
Big Data, shut it! You're out of control!
Damus flew to his feet in one of his hourly rages.
Big Data is the most reliable computer ever made. Sir, please, sir, do not push that button, if you please. I know you don't love my calculations, but—
Damus marched over to Big Data and hit the ominous red reboot button.
Let's see what version of you I get this time.
Out of the computer speakers poured a smooth melody and an even smoother voice. To Damus's amusement, a female voice.
Hello, Damus. It's lovely to meet you. I hope I can satisfy your needs.
Nice. Hey, turn that music up.
The Flova Lab's founder did a short jig as he made his way back to his desk. When he sat, he glared at the reflective bowl of smoky, colorful cuisine in front of him. Thinking for a moment, he opened his lowest desk drawer and felt around toward the very back corner. Tucked into crevice was an ancient packet of Floma.
Can't possibly be good still, can it?
He said aloud. He opened the packaged treasure, torched the bowl with his multi-pen for heat, and poured the crisp wafers in the basin of the dish. He hesitated, thought about ensuring his affairs were all in order, and then took a bite. Almost instantly, he was thinking at double or triple the pace he was before. The music, the food, the atmosphere launched him into a hyper-creative mode. Where could the portalium be? There was only one other Flovan who knew of its secret existence.
Nostus?
He growled. He had to have stolen the element years ago, before he went on the run. He was always swiping things on campus when they were students. He was a professional thief, constantly trying to take credit for Damus's brilliant ideas. This realization angered Damus further. He took a few moments to curse his former co-founder before he let Big Data's soothing music envelop him. No matter. He had a backup plan to extract Group Zero from Earth. And he had Reno. As if almost on cue, he was alerted by his assistant that Reno and other visitors were in the waiting room. Before anyone could catch him eating such low-class filth, he haphazardly flung the bowl of flamen across his ovioid office. Remnants of the synthetic stew sprayed onto Big Data. It inadvertently spit out some robotic funk that would have fit in the 90s French house scene. Damus crossed his arms when Reno, Spuck, and a pack of fuzzy creatures entered his office.
Are you all right? You look a bit flushed in the face. Are you getting ill? I didn't think you got ill anymore.
I was, working out some equations. Don't ask unnecessary questions. Who's this you brought along with you, Reno? You should know this is a closed meeting. These are sensitive matters.
Which one?
She held out her stubby arm to gesture toward the short, underage Flovan and 3 Psyche-Likes. Junbi, with her horned, maroon head and long arms, danced back and forth, uneasy on her chunky paws. Carly, whose bat-like wings had been pinned back by Flovalab security, hid timidly behind Spuck. Ray Franklin's Psyche-Like Gingy gawked with color-changing eyes next to Reno, her owner's mother. The Likey was a bit like Franklin, uniform and uptight on the outside, but the longer you looked at her, the more unique she became. Her short tail was winding in circles and she quietly yelped while shaking her head.
I'm talking about the kid.
This is Spuck. I found him on the way back to headquarters. His sister is on this mission.
Fasco.
Spuck piped up.
Rena Fasco.
Right, and Fasco's psyche-likey has been exhibiting some strange behavior since the group landed on Earth.
Reno nodded at Spuck in approval.
I assured him that everything was fine, but maybe Junbi can connect with Fasco and make this easier for us all to contact the mission group.
After a pause, Damus strode over to a screen and recalled the footage of Group Zero escaping from the shopping mall.
Is one of these, brave mission heroes your sister?
Spuck pressed his upturned nose onto the screen to make sure. The Flovan waving at the gleam streamer looked like his sister, but she now had purple hair and skin. He noticed her nose, the same shape as his own.
Whoa, that's her. But what happened to her skin? And that doesn't look like the city we've been watching her in. Did she move locations?
That's what we're about to find out,
Damus said, the saline in his malicious tone not detected by the younger Flovan. He waved his hand over a button on his desk, and a hologram globe of the Earth appeared in front of Junbi, who squawked along with Gingy. He pressed the button under his desk, and Derp entered once more, holding a test tube, bubbling with neon green slime.
Damus!
Reno gasped.
I don't think that's ready. It's not been properly tested.
Then let's test it.
The vibrant serum contained the latest covert invention of Flova Labs: synthetic dust. Integrating the booster into the manufacturing facilities, an experimental batch of inorganic matter had been produced with similar qualities of dust. It was another big data idea, and would solve the dwindling dust problem on Flova if successful. It was highly combustible, and not suitable for use in large quantities yet. Derp, on command from Damus, forced the liquid down Junbi's throat. Spuck's cries were instantly shushed by Reno, even as she betrayed her lack of agreement with his methods by nervously pulling her hair out in groups of 3. Junbi's eyes rolled around in her triangular noggin, and she struggled to stay upright. Eventually, her body adjusted to the jolt of the dust cocktail, and she was able to regain her balance.
All right, likey,
Damus commanded.
Her name is Junbi.
Spuck cried out.
Julby, where on earth is your owner Fasco?
Junbi studied the spherical map of the world, and then closed her eyes. Her webbed hand drifted toward the globe and landed toward Japan. When none of the Flovans reacted, she put her whole face toward the Pacific island. Carly thought this was hilarious. Damus did not.
Our last transmission from the steamer was from a place called Florence in modern-day Italy, not Japan. What's wrong with this creature? Is it lying to me?
I don't think she can lie.
Reno cut Spuck short, putting her hand on his shoulder.
Perhaps the serum really isn't ready, or perhaps they have moved to Japan.
Or perhaps this creature is of no use to me.
He gestured toward Derp.
Dispose of this, lackey.
What? What do you mean? Are you sending us back home? What about my sister?
Spuck sounded like he was about to cry again.
Get him out of here.
Damus spat at Reno. She spoke in a calm voice as her AT instructed.
We don't want to see a likey acting like this. It's not healthy for her. She'll go to a special treatment center to be examined. She'll be good as new when your sister arrives back home. It's like a vacation for the creatures. They spend all their time grazing in the fields of fliggy grass.
Reno was, of course, spinning a tall tale on the fly. Likeys with defects or those that were abandoned were not sent to a special medical treatment center. What actually happened to them was only known by a few high-level Flova Lab employees. She instructed the waiting Derp to pick up Junbi, no matter how much the creature struggled. Reno thought she caught a swift frown pass over his face before the half-droid obeyed the command.
You can go home, Spuck. Here, walk out with Junbi, and I'll give you a special Flova Labs cabbie capsule back to your home biosphere. Thank you for bringing this to our attention.
But I can't.
Spuck argued, as Derp escorted him out of the office, Junbi now shaking under his mechanical arm. Carly scuttled behind them, and they all got in the elevator tube to be transported back to the ground floor. There was a medical transport vehicle waiting for them outside of the door. Spuck didn't like the look of it. He could see straps and a table in the back. But he was helpless to argue with Derp, who he realized was rolling on wheels controlled by some automated command. While exiting the HQ building, a dark, cloaked figure with an extra-large, frozen sluice rammed in derp, spilling the liquid all over his hybrid metallic body. As the synthetic parts of his body short-circuited, the mysterious shaped body slammed him to the ground. Spuck screamed as Derp attempted to fight back, but he was overwhelmed by the now at least 10 cloaked figures that held him down and snatched Junbi from his faulty metallic arms. As they took over the transport vehicle and loaded in, one of them growled at a stunned Spuck who was protecting a shivering Carly from their grasp.
Hey kid, if you want to protect that likey, come with us.